A few days passed since the realization that this was not a game, but instead a real reality, and most of that time Lily was recovering from eating the daydream berries. No more memories plagued Lily, but sometimes she remembered the picture of the violent cleric holding Phantom after killing the other two. Since that day, she still hadn't figured out the identity of the other two who were there, but she also hadn't left Lupina's cave since then either. Today was her first true lesson from Lupina, which was simply learning how to use her new weapon, which Lupina had said was called the Radiant Kiss. Lupina decided to teach right in front of her house, just in case she needed to grab something to help with the lessons. Alright, apprentice, the first thing you want to know is the basics of a weapon. If you don't know that, you won't be able to hunt with it, Lupina said as she paced around. Lily pulled out the turned-off hilt of the Radiant Kiss, holding it like a Jedi about to ignite their lightsaber. Though she couldn't figure out how to turn it on, she tried to do what the Lily she saw in her memory did, but she didn't feel anything. Lily, what are you doing? Lupina spoke up after watching Lily struggle for a good 3 minutes. I'm trying to turn it on. A few seconds goes by before Lupina painfully asks, Did you try pressing the button? Another few seconds pass before Lily's face goes red from the embarrassment and proceeds to press the button. From the top of the hilt ignited into a blade of pure light that glowed a soft yellow color. She started to wave it around to get a handle of the weight, but it felt rather light to hold. The light blade didn't add any weight to the weapon, and it was also the only distinction from a lightsaber was that it looked like a sword blade instead of a pillar of light. The next thing she tried to do was work the gun portion of the Radiant Kiss, but even after pulling what she assumed to be the trigger, nothing had happened. Lupina noticed Lily struggled and spoke up. Not even I have been able to figure out how to get that part of it working. I doubt an apprentice would be able to figure out what I couldn't. I'm sure I can figure it out, Lily said, but even after a few minutes of time trying to figure it out, nothing had happened. Apprentice, do you want my training or not? I have many places where someone as great as me could be, Lupina said impatiently. Yes, of course I do. Sorry, Lily quickly said as she stopped fiddling with the weapon. Alright, are you ready to begin our lesson? Lily didn't say anything but instead nodded in response. Lupina then waved her hand to form a red ice training dummy in front of Lily. I want you to take a few swings at the target dummy. Do not worry too much about your form. I just want to see your subconscious movements for a moment. Hearing Lupina give the go-ahead, Lily took a step forward towards the dummy and slashed it with all her might. Though, despite slashing with such force, the dummy sustained no damage. Not even a slight scratch was left on the surface of the frozen dummy. Seeing this, she slashed again with an equal amount of force as her first swing, yet still no damage was sustained. Starting to get a little confused, she threw out her refined movements in favor of furious slashes towards the opposing dummy. Even after exhausting her stamina, the dummy still stood still as if nothing passed through it. Lily, feeling defeated, fell to the ground, taking deep breaths to try and regain any of her exerted stamina. Why isn't this thing working? Lily said while gasping for breath. It didn't make sense why the blade wasn't working like it did in her memory, though she soon realized that Lupina knew as she heard her laugh as she tried to figure out what was going on. I expected you to slash it once or twice, but I didn't expect you to use your full force on it after it failed time and time again. Don't you think that it is insane to try the same thing repeatedly, thinking something will change? Lupina said, struggling to get her words out as she laughed. What happened then? Why didn't the blade work? Does it not cut anything? Lily said, not giving Lupina a moment to answer any of the questions that were asked. The blade of the sword is made out of pure light. What does that have to do with anything? Lily said, trying to hide her frustration to not upset her teacher. Well, fire always will produce light. Light will not always produce heat. Essentially, solid light replaces the traditionally used steel in the blade of the sword. The reason the sword cannot slash the ice is because transparent objects, such as glass and smooth ice, let light pass through it. So I made the ice training dummy out of clear ice. If it were rough, your blades would have worked at a reduced rate, Lupina said with a hint of superiority intertwined with her words as your ego was greatly boosted from pulling off that trick and having to explain it to her apprentice. Lily was frustrated, but knew that arguing with Lupina was a rather bad idea. Lupina paid no attention to the angry glances that her apprentice was giving her. Instead, she modified her training dummy to be almost non-transparent. I think the first thing we should do is to start to improve your stance and swing. Well, your first two swings were decent. They felt like you knew how to use the weapon, but not how to properly fight at all. Lily nodded in response as she stood up once again to face the dummy. She then turned on the Radiant Kiss once again and stood in what she thought was a battle-ready stance. Once she felt she was ready to start, she looked in Lupina's direction. All right, where do we start? Lupina smiled at Lilly. Before I teach you how to strike your opponent, I want to teach you want to maneuver your blade to ensure you don't accidentally leave yourself open to an oncoming opponent's attack. At the moment, your movements have a few noticeable holes. What do you think I should start with? Let us start with your swing. At this current moment, your swings are too wide. While it does give more power to a swing, it also moves your blade too far from any defensible position. I think for now, we should work on making your attacks move less from your center, while still maintaining some decent force. Lilly nodded, then started to slash at the training dummy. This time the blade ended up cutting through a bit of the dummy, but didn't go through it. Her swing, although not as wide, didn't have the strength necessary to do any substantial damage. Had it been armor, only a scratch would have been left from her strike. Lilly kept at her training, trying to better her sword movements, and after a week of just focusing on that, they shifted to learning more combat-like skills. Soon, a full month had passed, and Lilly's sword and combat skills had vastly improved. They decided to move their training location closer to the summit of Mount Shivering, as there were more clearings there and made it easier to practice their swordplay. Luckily, their new training location was only a few hours' walk from Lupina's cave, and slightly longer to Lilly's igloo. During their training, Lupina had started summoning training dummies in different spots around Lilly to help simulate a proper battle. Lilly had gotten so adept at using the Radiant Kiss that every time a dummy formed, she managed to slice it clean in two. Congratulations, apprentice. You managed to vastly improve your skills since we first met, Lupina happily said to Lilly. Lilly smiled and got a little shy at the praise. It is only because I had such a perfect teacher, she said, having gotten used to the effortlessly mixing ego-boosting compliments into her words to keep Lupina happy. I think that is enough training for the day. We have been at it since the sun's rise and it is almost sundown. I think we've earned a good rest and a day off tomorrow. I want to continue training, but I do get that the need to rest is just as important as the work. Though, I still know where I need improvement, such as I can feel, Lilly had started to say, but her sentence was cut off by a loud boom in the distance. Lupina and Lilly both looked to see the cause of the loud noise. It appeared to be originating from west of their position, but as soon as they looked in the direction, they saw something that scared Lilly. Hovering above the clouds and maybe even the atmosphere was a large and wide spaceship with a very dark purple steel metal, glowing purple lights, and a minotaur-like head shape at the center of the ship. She recognized the design from the little she played of Guardian Tales, as it was one of the first things you see in the game. It was the invader mothership flying down to attack Canterbury Castle. After a few seconds of staring, the duo saw things shoot out from the mothership towards the ground, though they couldn't see where they landed as the view was still obscured by the mountain. Lupina was the first to speak up after witnessing this event. What is that thing? What is going on? Lilly didn't respond immediately, but after a few minutes she spoke rather softly. The story has started. We have finally entered the Guardian Tale storyline.